Hey guys, what's going on? It's Primetime here for the I think it's the third episode of this PvT series. I'm losing my mind. But in the bottom right of Entombed Valley, we have Hellion King, who, just for your information, is a top Masters player, a top 8 Masters player, that is. He's going to be our red Terran in the bottom right. And in the bottom left of Entombed Valley, as the blue Protoss, is myself, Primetime. So this game is going to be the same build concept of the builds that we've been seeing, but it's going to be a more standard follow through to the late game that I will typically do. In the last game we got to see the fact that a very simple response to not seeing Vikings is, well, build more Colossus. And that's exactly what you want to do if you see that. You already have the tech, you don't need to add on a robo or anything, just make sure you get extended thermal lance. Because in that first push, I don't think I've said this yet, but in the first push I actually do not get extended thermal lance. So I literally have 3 Colossus or 4 Colossus in the early game without that range upgrade. So that's just something to sort of note. Now I will speed this up because hopefully I've covered everything in the build so far, as in the build order in the early game. Excuse me there. Sorry. So in this game, instead of just simply building Colossus because our opponent is not going to get Vikings, what we're going to see this game is my typical follow through after the first push doesn't quite seal the deal. And honestly, if you're playing against a good opponent, they're going to be able to hold the first push most of the time. Sometimes you will get the kill, sometimes you will win flat out. And depending on your micro, that can be a big deciding factor as well. But so just plan on not winning, though, I think is the smart choice. And we're going to see the standard follow through again that I do. This time our opponent is once again going to go for that early expansion. I'm not picking games where players do this. It's just, at least in Masters League, it's just standard to go for an early expo. So, and I know I said this last game, but I just want to mention again, because I'm susceptible to an early rush, I'm going to leave my worker here to patrol. And if this was a very large force, this is exactly what I would need to see that coming. And now I know this is on the way, so I'm just going to go ahead and get ready. And I only have 3 units out right now, so that's why it's really important to be good on your scouting, because if this is a large force, I need to see that earlier. I need to realize he's not expanding and whatnot. But as usual, I'm going to go ahead and let some units up the ramp so my zealots can go to work. Now, I lose that early sentry, which is a huge loss in this build, because you really can't afford to just throw down another 100 gas for another sentry. I do kill the rest of the Marines, and the units lost tab is kind of even, so I am a little bit ahead in that regard, but honestly, losing that gas has basically made it an even game at this point in terms of units lost. Now, my response to losing the sentry, you can do one of 2 things. You can either build 2 sentries, which is what I'm doing, and typically what you're going to do is put 2 zealots and 2 sentries in the warp prism. We actually got to see this last game, so the same idea there. Or what you can do is just build 1 sentry, continue on your build, continue getting your Colossus and whatnot, and just wait to do the drop. There's no like rule that says you need to do this drop before the 9-minute mark or anything. So a good response, and as we can see, I'm going to go ahead and get this expansion because I cut back on gateway units a little bit there. But I go ahead and expand. You want to keep chronoing the Colossus tech out, but what the other option aside from going for this 2 sentry drop is to just build 1 sentry, and then when you have, in about a minute from now, actually probably less than that, actually if you waited another 20 seconds, you'd have enough for 2 force fields right from these sentries. So what you could literally do is just move out with your big army. Once you get to here, you can maybe poke in to distract them, and by that time, 1 sentry will have enough energy for 2 force fields. Now, pretty good response from lifting the command center from Hellion King, and in the workers killed tab, I've only killed 4 workers, so Not significant damage whatsoever, but it is the cost of the Warp Prism, and since I didn't lose any units there, it's a pretty good trade. Looks like Hellion King realizes I have Colossus tech on the field. He's going to be getting Vikings out. I'm pretty sure he scanned me, but we'll just go ahead and see right now. Yeah, he saw the Robo Bay, so he knows Colossus are coming. So he's going to be getting Vikings just in time. And I want to note something. I have 2 Colossus out right now, and as I mentioned, I did cut back gateway units a little bit so I can get an earlier expo. But what I do here is I wait for my 3rd Colossus to come across the field, and instead of doing this, I could have built a couple more Stalkers instead of that early 3rd Colossus, and I could be hitting by now. And if we look, he has 2 bunkers and 2 Vikings with some Marines. But I built that 3rd Colossus, and I may even get a couple extra Warp Gate units in here as well. The problem is, by the time I attack, he's going to have 6 Vikings and 3 bunkers with the missile turret. That is why hitting early is very important to do in this matchup. And it looks like I'm going to go ahead and try to push up anyway. And in the units lost, just keep in mind that I am 450 ahead of my opponent. And I'm letting my Colossus take shots from the missile turret. I should have microed that to the side a little bit, but oh well. Now, when you're getting chased with your Colossus, just run them away and leave your Stalkers behind. So that's exactly what I did, because if you're getting chased by Vikings, just run with your Colossus, leave your Stalkers. That's all you need to do. As long as they don't have like a big Bioforce there, obviously. So our opponent is going to continue making Vikings, but if we look, as I said, my standard follow-through with this is to stop making Colossus, and I've transitioned into Immortals. And you do want to chrono this out when you can afford it, because you're not going to want to add on another Robo Bay, or another Robo Facility. I keep calling it that, oh my god. Yeah, because you're not going to want to add on a second Robo Facility, just chrono this out when you can. And if we look at my base, I'm also adding on... Whoa, what the heck did I just do? Okay, I put it to his efficient. Alright, a little bit of a glitch in the matrix there, but so another thing I want to note actually before I get on to what I've followed this up with, in the Workers tab I am ahead, but if we look at the spending, because of the early expo, he is way ahead in technology, and we're about tied for the other counts. And what that means, I do say this a lot, but what it means is that he's pretty much ahead at this point in the game, especially since he's only lost 400 more resources. He's not far ahead, but he is a little bit ahead. And that's exactly why you need to be very cost effective with your first push and kill as many workers as possible, because you're delaying your expo. You want these second gas up as soon as possible. I only have 2 on each, which is a mistake. Although I do have a lot of gas, so I probably pulled 1 off of each, but you do want full saturation. I'm not exactly sure what happened in this game. Now, typically I like to get 2 forge, but I'm only on 1 right now. If you feel like it's a pretty even game, then maybe just go for that 1 forge. If you feel like you've gotten a lead after your first push, then go for 2 forge, and then you're going to need a Twilight Council fairly soon after, because, well, you need a Twilight Council to continue getting upgrades. And you can see I'm doing that right now for the exact same reason. Now, our opponent, Hellion King, is going to be pushing across the field right now. He has +1 attack upgrade. I wonder if that just finished. Yeah, it did. So that's why he's trying to make a little bit of a timing attack. I have the same upgrade, and before we look at this fight, I just want to go over the Units tab. Now, because I completely tech switched out of Colossus, like I did not even get Thermal Lance, as you can see, because I tech switched out, and my opponent thought that because I had such early Colossus, I would stay on this tech path, which is exactly what you're hoping for as a Protoss player. He went ahead and got 10 Vikings, which is kind of too many for Colossus. So we'll see for 3 Colossus. So we will see how this attack pans out. Now he's going to fly up here and immediately snipe 1 Colossus. The proper way to fight this would be force fields, keep Colossus back, and kill Vikings. Now if his Vikings were to micro back, what you would want to do is bring your Colossus forward, even though the Vikings will be in range, and then just engage their army with everything, and then try to cut it in half with force fields. So I'm actually going to go ahead and rewind this just for a second, just so you can see sort of the other possibility of that attack. Sorry, I went a little bit too far back there. And also, I just realized this. If you look at the supply tab, he is 10 ahead. So at this point right now, if these Vikings were back here, what you would want to do is once he approaches the ramp a little bit more, just charge forward, cut his army in half, and just engage with everything. Don't worry about your Colossus taking damage, but because his Vikings are far ahead, pull your Colossus back and move the rest of your army forward, and then force field on the ramp so that his Marines and Marauders can't even get up there. Now, once again, I just want to show you this again, just so you can sort of see what I did. I should not have pulled these Colossus back forward. I should have force fielded and pulled the rest of my army back. Just a little bit of a micro tip for you. Now, he's going to land these Vikings, and which is sort of the smart decision by our opponent. But when I see his Vikings all basically die, that's going to prompt me to go ahead and begin making Colossus. And you don't even need Thermal Lance. Just make a couple Colossus. Thermal Lance is a good upgrade if you can afford it, and usually you will be able to at this point in the game. But you can see I have 2 Forges at this point and Blink coming, so I really can't afford it all too much off 2 base. And I only have 6 Warp Gates, which is pretty important to note. You really don't need more than that. And after that battle, I sort of assumed I was in the lead, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to take a third, and it looks like my opponent is ahead of me on that one. But after he saw that I stopped producing Colossus after 3, he's literally not made any more Vikings. So if you can come out with 2 or 3 Colossus, you'll really surprise him, and you really take him off guard, and you'll be able to capitalize on that sort of tech switching advantage. Now, before I go into my next topic, I do want to note that even though you're not getting High Templar for Storms or Archons, the fact that you're tech switching back and forth between producing Colossus or producing Immortals, it makes your opponent have to tech switch back and forth between Vikings and not Vikings. Or I guess in most cases Vikings or Medivacs. Sorry, it looks like I somewhat missed a drop. Now, as I said before, I like to keep my army up here so I can easily come back and take care of drops. Especially when you don't have Blink, that's very important to do. But because I'm gearing up for a 3rd base, you sort of just want to keep your army in between all 3 bases if possible when you're playing as Terran. So that's just sort of a little something to note. And chrono out upgrades if you can, which there's really not much else you need to chrono out. And I'm still making Colossus because I feel like he probably has yet to build too many Vikings. And if you look at the units tab, he still only has that 1 Viking, the lone survivor, out of that first attack. So, luckily I was right about that. He's going... Where are these dropships headed? What the heck? Wait, why are they going up there? I don't know. That might have been... We're just going to have to watch and see what happens right here. But, you do still want sentries in your army. They're very, very important until your opponent gets ghosts. Because you can just slice their army in half with force fields. I have no idea why these are here. But anyway, so I'm going to proceed forward, and it looks like he's realized I have some Colossus, so he's going to get some Vikings out. So if I can attack before they're out, this will be pretty good. I do have some Zealots, just probably because I had some overflowing minerals. And Zealots are fine to get even without charge, because they just act as tanks, and they just take damage. And not the best positioning for myself, and if I had more force fields, that would be even better. But we will just have to watch this battle and see what happens. Now, continuing to rally in reinforcements, and when you have Blink, just go ahead and obviously use that to your advantage. And the drop is finally... Okay, we're going to have to watch the replay to see what happens to that drop, because I think he just dropped both off here, and I was able to slowly clean it up, but we'll go back and check that out. Sorry that I missed that. But looks like I'm just able to overrun my opponent. I did grab a 3rd, by the way, and despite the fact that... Okay, I did that again. I don't want to just go back like that. Oh, that restarts it. How nice. Yeah, despite the fact that my opponent even got an earlier 3rd than me, I was still able to come out on top of this game. Now, I will do a quick recap, and I want us to just see those dropships. See what they have to... Okay, I actually had a couple Stalkers here, luckily, to defend against a drop. And actually, when you're... Oh, wow, they actually picked off a dropship. But when your entire army is out across the field, and when you only have 6 warp gates, it looks like, or let's say 8 warp gates or less on 3 base, you really need to leave a few units behind because you just can't warp in enough units in time to defend this. Luckily, I did pick off 1 dropship, and I guess that was sort of the saving grace. this game. And if you see this happening, target the medevac first just to kill it, and so they can't retreat, and then warp in units as you can. And it looks like at the end there you saw the workers finishing off the units. At this point, if your warp gates are not off cooldown, just pull your workers now while you still have attacking units alive, but I did not do that, unfortunately. Anyway, so, quick recap. If we look at my final tech, I'm still on Run Robo. I did get the Templar Archives, and the reason for this is mostly for Archons. Now, if you do this constant trading back and forth where you're both losing army and your supply is like both of you have relatively low supplies, that's when Charge the Archon is actually very effective in the low numbers. But when the Terran has a large army, they can easily kite the Archon Charge lot. So if you choose tech to that is a definite possibility. But more importantly, I would say getting Storm is probably a better tech switch. And you should have the gas for it, since your upgrades will be nearly completed, and you'll have a third base for gas as well. So teching to a few High Templar with Storm is probably a good choice, because you'll catch your opponent off guard before you can get some ghosts out, and that will definitely supplement your army very well. Now, I'm not sure what the next game is going to be, and I apologize because I'm guessing this is a two-part video, and I'm really sorry about that. It's just sort of how the YouTube thing's set up right now, but I'll work on that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'm not sure what the next video is going to be, but we will just have to find out together. I hope you guys learned some cool stuff today, and as always, good luck on ladder. Primetime, signing out.